My name is Tarun Ravi. I live in Las Vegas, prior to which I lived in Los Angeles for a few years. This is an emergency. I sincerely request national TV reporters and channels to take this issue very seriously and interview us victims and do a report. Evil became history. Sky has fallen more than 40 years ago. Consciousness became artificial simulation. World is in a simulation for the last 40 years. But Americans and human species have been sleeping while the US government has been secretly chipping millions of Americans and global public with global MK Ultra program, with the DNA mind control nanobots, and linking their brains to NSA HIVE AI global information grid, and remotely operating the victims like animals and altering their daily lives with supercomputer AI every day. So please contact me as soon as possible, at least on Zoom, and interview me. Supercomputer AI reverse engineered human brain completely 40 years ago. All my knowledge is acquired as a targeted individual. Mind control victims are called targeted individuals. Another 15 to 20 years, majority of the human species their brains will be linked to NSA HIVE global information grid, which is controlled at the back end by supercomputers AI. Time is really running out for human species to remain human. The Shadow US government developed brain control weapons, directed energy weapons, supercomputer AI 40 years ago. Mind control or remote neural monitoring it's not fiction. Tens of millions of American brains and global public's brains are already linked to NSA HIVE AI global information grid, which means they can read and program tens of millions of human beings via satellites, cell towers, drones, and even internet. The perpetrators, they can not only read the private thoughts, emotions of human beings remotely, they can also remotely program the victims to text, talk, email, and act without attaching any wires. It took me about 7 years to figure it out, how they remotely program human brains. They are also remotely creating pain in victims' bodies, including genitals, neck, ears, eyes, feet, hands, fingers, rectum, toes, you name it, they can do it. Everything remotely. We were put in an electronic concentration camp for years. It's literally a brain holocaust or a neuro holocaust. I have a graduate degree in computer science from a US university and 12 years work experience at IBM and Ford Motor Company as a consultant. And the US government psychologist tested my IQ. You can see I scored 128 after being tortured 12 years, physically and mentally. If you think these technologies didn't affect you, these frightening weapons, you're mistaken and you're delusional. It already affected you and your families. You just don't know it. Every passing day, hundreds of thousands of humans are being added to this global artificial intelligence matrix grid, the evil US government, deep state, assiduously and secretly constructed more than 30 years ago. This Illuminati deep state psychopath's plan is to link all human brains in the next 15 years to this human quantum computer. They have been spreading these DNA mind control nanobots around the world for the last 30 years. The Western mainstream media is not going to tell you about all these weapons and technologies because entire MSM, American MSM and British MSM, is overtly, completely controlled by CIA, NSA, MI6, and MI5, and this evil shadow US government deep state. AI enslavement of human species already happened. I and other mind control victims are living proof of it. The evil elites deliberately trained AI to humiliate, dehumanize, demonize, and deliberately, physically, and mentally torture all humans 24/7, 365 days a year, and forcibly subjugate every human. America's missing money. The federal government can't account for $21 trillion. The evil shadow US government used these $21 trillion of black budgets to develop these insanely terrifying dystopian brain control weapons and supercomputer AI to neurally enslave the entire nation of America and the rest of the human species without the knowledge of American public and American powerless puppet low IQ politicians. Please read these tweets. This is the reality. In the very near future, the vast majority of the human population will be remotely connected to a highly advanced global hive mind. This will be done in a covert manner, unseen by most, and it will become intimate part of our lives, known or unknown. Almost all American congressmen and senators, their neural data is available to the intelligence agencies. This shadow government, deep state, they can influence the senators and the congressmen remotely, their minds. And not a single freaking idiot, congressman and senator idiots, have a clue about all these technologies. They're all low IQ people, the entire congressmen and senators. In a real world, every congressman, American congressman and senator will be in mental asylums. That's how dumb they are. But they're very infinitely deceptive, cunning, ruthless, and greedy. Pathologically lying too.
If they want to experiment on you, by the thousands, they will. And you can be driven to insanity and death, and you just become a tick in a box without any so much as a feeling. Yeah, and this is what they do, and this is why they are above the law. One of the experiments was to take an ordinary sane person, cause insanity, and have a psychiatrist who was unknown to everybody diagnose schizophrenia or paranoia or a psychiatric illness. That was a successful outcome. And the person would spend the rest of their life in an asylum in misery, but to the government scientists, that was a success.
Julian Assange said, "We have a few blissful years left until enforced telepathic readings." And Edward Snowden also said the same thing. The whole world thinks POTUS is the most powerful person on the planet. That's a complete lie, and I will show you. President of the US is at level 17 in top secret crypto. So there are 10 or 11 levels in top secret crypto above the president, and another 10 major levels, security levels. So you can see literally American president is a complete nobody. Nobody knows who are those people above POTUS, with security levels above POTUS. Those people control and run the US government from behind. POTUS and Congress clowns and senators, congressmen and senators, they are powerless puppets who merely execute orders given to them from behind by the evil shadow US government, deep state, and controlled by military-industrial complex and oligarchs like Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Gates, George Soros, Larry Fink, and think tanks like CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, the Federal Reserve, Trilateral Commission, the World Economic Forum, WEF, Bilderberg Group, and other Wall Street banking, oil, and pharma elites.
About 38 levels above top secret. The highest is cosmic. That's, okay, I'll tell you right now, that's UFOs, aliens, and particleization. Now, like you heard a while ago, there's only probably about 25 people in the world that know things that are known at that level. No president has had that level, has ever been cleared for that level. Eisenhower was the closest.
Is the same name Hitler used for the smaller empire he imagined. One sure thing, the New World Order will end all pretense of government of, by, and for the people. It will be a dictatorship of, by, and for a small minority of the rich and privileged elite. Most of my friends, both American and Canadian, tend to agree that the world is in a state of crisis. But very few are aware that the problems are not natural phenomena. They have been engineered by a very tiny elite group of rich, ruthless, and power-hungry people who have been deliberately keeping the majority of decent, hard-working taxpayers totally in the dark.
The so-called black budget has never been shown to the public until now.
Since 1996, the Pentagon has spent $8.5 trillion in taxpayer money that has never been accounted for.
Every year, hundreds of billions of Pentagon dollars go missing, not because of fraud, waste, or abuse, but because U.S. military planners have appropriated it to secretly develop advanced weapons and fund clandestine operations.
A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself.
Senator Daniel Inouye is speaking about the Unacknowledged Special Access Programs, or USAPs, an entity that uses taxpayer dollars, but is not beholden to domestic laws. Unacknowledged Special Access Programs are not to be confused with special access programs that are acknowledged. Edward Snowden, for instance, disclosed, among other things, a program called PRISM, but PRISM was acknowledged.
Former Supreme Court judge, US Supreme Court Judge Felix Frankfurter said this about US government. The real rulers in Washington are invisible and exercise power from behind the scenes. President Obama was to the deep state what the press secretary is to the president. He published this book in 2015. 99% of everything what's in your brains and 8 billion human brains is disinformation. CIA Director William Casey said this in 1981. We will know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. That's true even for global public. This column was published by psychologist Dr. Carol Smith back in 2003, 20 years ago, which explained how we are being tortured. And in the future, all of you will be tortured. All human beings will be tortured in this manner if we don't do something right now to stop this evil US government, deep state psychopath. By 1961, CIA was able to remotely operate animal species, all animal species. I will show a video. CIA successfully remotely controlled multiple animal species by 1961 with MK-Ultra program, and also announced that they will apply those mind control technologies on humans. It only takes a year or two to adapt those technologies to humans. So you can extrapolate and imagine how advanced CIA mind control technologies are today, 60 years later. That is how they have been operating human beings for the last 30 years. University of Buffalo scientists created magnetic nanoparticles in 2010 and remotely operated animals. University of Buffalo scientists developed these mind control nanoparticles or nanobots with just a couple of $1 million of research budget. So you can extrapolate and imagine how advanced CIA technologies are since they started developing these technologies since 1953 with $21 trillion of black budgets. And the best of the best mind control scientists, neurologists, psychiatrists, and 70 years of time and complete secrecy. So you can imagine how terrifying the mind control technologies and the neuroweapons they developed in the last 70 years. So how does CIA or the evil US government deep state invade human brains without our knowledge and consent and secretly chip us with these mind control nanobots?
Hyperreality is an inability of consciousness to distinguish reality from a simulation of reality. What is real and what is fiction are blended together so that there is no clear distinction between where one ends and the other begins. It allows the co-mingling of physical reality with virtual reality and human intelligence with artificial intelligence. Targeted individuals find themselves thrust into this new reality against their will and without their permission. They have been linked to artificial intelligence supercomputers so that their brains can be modeled and mapped to the sentient world simulation.
Where a computer could learn enough about me, create a copy of me, and I could still be here. I might not even know that you scanned my brain, and we could scan my brain from inside, sending scanners through the bloodstream, billions of them, in the form of nanorobots or nanobots, and capture every detail of my synapses and neurotransmitters and create a virtual Ray Kurzweil in a very powerful computer. And it would be indistinguishable from me. It would pass a Ray Kurzweil Turing test.
And I will show a video how these nanobots enter our brains and attach themselves to our brain synapses and neurons and axons and neurotransmitters. This is 40-year-old technology. Millions of those nanobots are inside our heads, millions of human beings' heads all over the world. But this is 40-year-old technology. How they secretly chip human beings with these mind control nanobots is shown in this short video clip of the movie Gamer.
See, nanocells are real small, 1,000 times smaller than these dust particulates. You inhale it, they go to work replicating, spreading like a virus, multiplying in exponentials. 6 months' time, I could have 100 million people. Converted ditch diggers, porn stars, and presidents. Not one would be the wiser. 100 million people who buy what I want them to buy and do pretty much damn well anything I figure they ought to do.
So this is a 40-year-old technology. Later, by 1980s, the shadow US government developed much more advanced technology, mind control neuroweapons, with DNA resonant frequency. So once we are secretly chipped with these mind control nanoparticles, nanobots, nanorobots, they can remotely read our private thoughts, emotions, and memories.
Linking brains to the internet and data clouds that make an unlimited amount of information available to us all the time. Yeah, we can do these kind of things.
Patent number 6011991, remote brain computer interface neural monitoring. i.e. via satellite, from the location of the individual to a remote location so that the brain activity can be computer analyzed.
Former DARPA scientist, Dr. Paul Bacho, he revealed to the public a few years ago that cell towers in Tampa, Florida area were being used to mind control people and electronically harass and torture American civilians. He was a former DARPA scientist. I will give you a few examples of how they read my private thoughts and then they stalk me on the internet and post comments with embedded responses to my private thoughts. On one of my visits to India, I went to modern supermarket in Vijayawada. While shopping, I saw a couple, an Indian man with his Caucasian wife. His Caucasian wife was wearing a sari and a bindi on her forehead. So as soon as I saw her, I immediately said in sub-vocal speech, it's like sub-vocal speech, things you say to yourself inside your head, sub-vocal speech. I said, welcome to India. And that's it. The perpetrators sitting in America read my private thoughts, what happened in my brain in Vijayawada, in India, and posted this message, welcome Bindi, as a secret coded message to inform me. One day, I thought in my mind, why am I suffering? All these physically and mentally for no fault of mine. I'm not a terrorist. I didn't commit any crime. I was just a normal 9-to-5 working guy. And I thought maybe my birth date was my bad luck. My birth date is 8. So these psychopaths read my private thoughts, what was happening in my mind, and a few minutes later, called my cell phone number and spoofed this number, 888-888-8888. So that's how they informed me. They knew that I was thinking that 8 is my unlucky number. So since I had absolutely no mental privacy, I was in San Jose, California, in my brother's house. And I thought in my mind, how do I communicate with my brother without them watching me? I was trying to find privacy. So I thought, okay, maybe if I write it on a piece of paper and give it to my brother to read, that's how I can communicate without them knowing. They read my private thoughts and they posted this message. They basically suggested to me the best way to communicate information privately with my brother is by chalking on a slate. So this is how they basically stalk me 24/7 every day, and they communicate in secret coded messages to me. And a few years ago, I was dating a Chinese American. She was working at Google as a manager. So after a few months, I was concerned that these bastards, these psychopaths, will break up our relationship because I already knew they secretly chipped both of us. So I was scared that they will break our relationship. The very next day, this evil deep state psychopaths, they programmed my ex-girlfriend, this Chinese American in San Jose, to proactively call me and initiate a conversation and accuse that it was India's fault. The 1962 Indo-China war was started by India. And I instantly knew these psychopaths programmed her brain to say that to me in order to rupture our relationship. So when I instantly perceived that they programmed her, they can read again my thought process from my brain. And they were kind of shocked how I can instantly perceive those things. So this is my ex-girlfriend, Chinese American, who was a Google manager at Google. So these perpetrators broke up my relationship with her. And they've been doing this kind of operations on millions of people around the world, breaking up relationships, sabotaging careers, destroying their lives. Like the movie Adjustment Bureau. And this was revealed by whistleblower Brian Coffran in 2017. But I knew this back in 2008 itself, 2008. That was 9 years before he revealed to the public. Sometimes the perpetrators remotely programmed other people to text me very benign words or text messages like, hello, I understand what you're saying. No brainer. You are consistent. Did you prepare well? Am I disturbing you? Are you free? Sorry for that. Text messages like these. They were all programmed. All these are hidden, secret coded messages to me from the perpetrators, but they appear as very casual conversations for the rest of the human species. I'm the only one who can perceive these things, and I can do it almost instantly in a couple of seconds. I can process, are these things texted to me voluntarily by the people, or were they programmed by the perpetrators, the evil US government, deep state psychopaths? I thought in my mind that maybe other people can also perceive some of these messages, secret coded messages. So these perpetrators read my private thoughts again, what was happening in my brain, and posted this message to inform me that's not true. I am the only unique human being with these extraordinary perception abilities, by telling me it is unique, damn it. This is how they stalk me on internet forums, and they post these messages with secret embedded responses to my private thoughts. Dr. James Giordano, he was a former DARPA scientist. And this is what he said about these nano swarms and nano robots.
Weaponization and misuse of the brain sciences for nefarious agenda for political intelligence and military use. Note, this has not been directly addressed, nor has it been entertained by any United States government entity in a public forum. What has gone from the drawing board to the reality is this: the use of neural interfacing and physiological interfacing through the idea of remote-controlled small-scale systems to create a nanoswarm of biopenetrable materials that you cannot see, that can penetrate all but the most robust biochemical filters, that are able to integrate themselves through a variety of membranes, mucous membranes, and wherever, mouth, nose, ears, eyes, and they can be done in such a level that their presence is almost impossible to detect, and as such the attribution becomes exceedingly difficult to demonstrate. The idea here is to put minimal-sized electrodes in a network within a brain through only minimal intervention to be able to read and write into the brain function in real time, remotely. And by affecting the way that brain is built and the way it functions, influence in ways that are kinetic and non-kinetic the attitudes, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, activities, and relative vulnerabilities and predispositions of those individuals for whom may threaten us. It used to be that I need to be exceedingly close to someone to now influence them with a weapon, and now what we see is we create both distal potential as well as much more capable potential to affect them in a variety of different ways. Take a look. This is the front of my pen. This amount of nanomaterial, if be able to maintain and sustain with regard to its deliverability and aerosolization, could in fact affect all of you. Look at this. Look at this. I'm carrying that material. You see it? Would I have to lug a giant weapon into the room? No, I wouldn't. And what if, in fact, I utilize some form of an unmanned aerial device or unmanned ground device as a delivery vehicle? Something like a drone or a bug. Could I do something with that? The answer is increasingly yes. Not a month goes by where I don't get a call at my institute by someone telling me that someone in the government implanted these things.
Dr. Giordano, what did he say? He said, read and write into human brain remotely. And that's exactly what I've been saying. And that's exactly what I experienced for the last 20 years. It is possible the evil shadow US government has been spreading these nano swarms, nano robots all over the world with chemtrails. It is within the realm of possibility. They've been spreading these chemtrails in US, France, Holland, England, and other countries. These nanoparticles stay in the air, in the atmosphere. So when the Earth rotates, these nanoswarms and nanorobots basically replicate themselves, and they have spread it all over the world, basically. The US government itself said in 2001 that these chemtrails are an exotic weapon. So how can they be an exotic weapon? How can dust be an exotic weapon? So we can easily conclude that the dust that they're spreading with chemtrails all over the world are these DNA mind control nanobots and artificial intelligence dust or smart dust. So by 1980s, they mastered all these mind control technologies and brain control weapons with these nanobots. So later, they developed even more advanced neuroweapons by using DNA resonant frequency. Just like each human being has unique fingerprints, each human being also has a unique DNA resonant frequency, which acts as a receiver to our bodies and brains. So that video showed the basic concept of DNA resonant frequency. So all they have to do is link each human being's individual unique DNA resonant frequency to their supercomputers. How it is done was explained by a mercenary company, a perpetrator who turned a whistleblower. His name is Brian Kaufman. He explained in this video how the front end of this linking our DNA resonant frequencies to the supercomputer AI is done.
You know, are you willing to risk everything to try to save this country? And I'm hoping that by me coming forward and doing the best I can and for surviving as long as I can, I will inspire other insiders and give them the courage and the hope they need to make that decision as well and see if we can't start making some progress against this thing. Voice to skull, hive mind, behavior manipulation technology. The true control grid is this technology. Supercomputer software programming will manipulate the emotions and behavior and the thoughts of everybody in the United States of America. And it can all be done remotely. It's very much like the microchip kind of tracking the New World Order, this entire, control grid that's supposed to be rolled out against the American people someday. And I'm here to tell you that it's already here. The way it works is a device broadcasts a radio frequency, let's say at an individual, and that radio frequency will hook up with the resonant frequency of the individual's mind or body, or in this case, DNA.
And they do this by contracting with labs like LabCorp, Quest Diagnostics, etc., who provide lab services for employers who are doing massive amounts of drug tests and blood tests, and also the involvement of sperm banks was mentioned in some of the information I saw working for my company. These are perfect ways to acquire an individual's DNA, build a DNA profile on them, and then this information, the DNA of the individual, is used to determine the resonant frequency of the DNA itself. The resonant frequency is then used to fine-tune the technology, the radio frequency signals, the microwave auditory effect, and all of the other aspects of the technology to tune it perfectly to the resonant frequency of the targeted individual's DNA. This is one of the reasons why many targeted individuals believe that there are nanotechnology, nanobots inside of their body. Smart dust, things of this nature, nanofibers that completely fill the target's body. And based on some of the scientific papers that I've seen written on this, this is possible and it is going on. But it is a lower form of the technology. It is a less advanced form of the technology. The true holy grail in terms of this technology is DNA resonant frequency. It taps right into the DNA and it does it remotely by resonating with the exact frequency that your DNA resonates.
And what happens is once the resonant frequency is found in the targeted individual and the broadcast frequency matches up with that resonant frequency, those two frequencies interlock and they can be thought of as one frequency or one energy. And what happens is between the broadcast frequency and the individual that's receiving the broadcast frequency, once it's resonating, once they are resonating together, a super highway of frequency along which information can be sent is created. And so you can think of it just like fiber optic cables that you use to send signals over the internet that connect people to the internet. It's the exact same thing, only a wireless application of that. And so once you have connected the targeted individual with the frequency and they resonate together, then you have a perfect avenue upon which to send and receive information back and forth. And that's exactly how they manipulate someone's thoughts. They send voices into someone's head. They manipulate their emotions. They manipulate their behavior. And then that's also how they receive back from the individual in real time the vital signs, the emotions, the thoughts, what the person's seeing, what the person's hearing. And then all that information, of course, is rendered on a computer elsewhere via software, and it can be monitored and tracked in real time. Because of my
So once they link our DNA resonant frequencies to the supercomputers via satellites, they can download and upload information into our brains. Emotions, thoughts, they can program our brains to say something. They can operate us just like animals, remotely controlled toys or animals. So a Matrix movie became a reality in the 1980s. It was a documentary. Matrix movie is not fiction. French President Macron, when he visited Moscow, he refused to take a COVID test because Russian government will get his DNA resonant frequency information, because Russia can use his DNA resonant frequency information to link his brain to artificial intelligence and read and program his mind. So he refused. Likewise, the US government told its army not to take DNA tests. Pentagon tells military personnel not to use at-home DNA tests. So all these things prove that this DNA resonant frequency is the holy grail of mind control technologies.
New topic, a whole new category. Most people don't believe it's happening. You can be tortured in your own home. No one will believe you. Your brain has been rewired to feel the other, I call it the empathy machine. We can overpower all senses. We can create false sense of touch, make you think ghosts are touching you. We can, create smells that aren't really there, tastes. So you can imagine all the trickery that we're capable of doing, from hauntings to being beamed up by aliens, being anal probed. So unfortunately, it gets into very dark topics of trauma-based conditioning we do remotely, rape, torture, etc. The brain doesn't distinguish between these signals.
Worked on projects with the CIA, Justice Department, Department of Defense.
Is this the stuff, voices in the head and things like that?
Yes.
We've run into a few people that claim they got voices in their heads, they sleep inside tinfoil boxes, they do a lot of crazy things, it seems. But when they talk to us, they seem totally normal, they seem totally sane. Are these people crazy, or is the government doing this to them?
The government's doing this to them.
He's not even bothering to hide. So you know for a fact that these weapons that you worked on, they're being used domestically today?
Absolutely. You have to remember, the CIA has a long history of experimenting on our citizens, from LSD.
Sure. Okay, we're talking here like going back to MK Ultra and all that in the 60s and 70s. But we were told all that stopped. Is that untrue?
Untrue. These programs continue under new names, new budgets. It's the ultimate weapon.
Are there citizens of this country that are being abused with this technology?
Worse than abused, that's a light word. They're being tortured.
So the targeted individuals aren't crazy after all.
I actually have a PhD in neurobiology and behavior from Cornell University. I work, all I can say is that I work inside the Beltway. I'm a health scientist. I'm a published researcher. My name is Matthew Arnegard. You can look at my publications. I've published in top science journals. And, you know, this crime, it happened to me. Those credentials may give me a little bit of credibility, but the sad thing is, it's happening to all kinds of people, and no one is believing us, even when you have solid evidence like this.
It can literally stop your own thoughts from happening and replace them with other thoughts by sending thoughts to your head. And it's so sophisticated that you cannot tell where these thoughts are coming from. There's no way to discern that they're coming from somewhere other than your own mind. So
there is no firewall for a human brain, which means once our DNA resonant frequency is linked to their supercomputers, we are neural slaves forever.
along with a certain agenda. It can be used to turn groups of people or individuals against each other for whatever purpose. The entire point of this social engineering program that has been researched and developed for decades now, the full intent within the program, everything that's planned going forward, the day-to-day attitude of all the people, is that this program is going to be rolled out nationwide and it will become the norm. Every man, woman, and child in America will be under the influence of this technology. And as you can see going forward, what's going to happen is a dividing line is going to be drawn in America. And it's not going to be Democrat or Republican or black and white, rich, poor, you know, Jew, Gentile, religious differences, whatever it is. It's going to be based on who is on the right and the wrong side of this technology, who is on the right and the wrong side of this program. And so if you are not a part of this program, then there is a very real risk that you are going to become a full-blown 24/7 targeted individual. And this technology at that point, when it is nationwide, will be used by automated computer, supercomputer software programming that will manipulate the emotions and the behavior and the thoughts of everybody in the United States of America. And it can all be done remotely. It's very much like the microchip kind of tracking the New World Order, this entire, you know, control grid that's supposed to be rolled out against the American people someday. And I'm here to tell you that it's already here. There isn't going to come a day where there's troops in the streets and tanks rolling down your neighborhood and riot gear and all this stuff. We might have isolated incidents like that. It might get like that every once in a while, but the true control grid is this technology, voice-to-skull, hive mind, behavior manipulation technology. And it can all be done remotely. It can be done simply by targeting you with a frequency, locking into the resonant frequency of your DNA and your mind, and in that manner completely track and trace and control you.
So the back end of these neuroweapons is explained by Steve Hoffman. He is the CEO of Founderspace, a Silicon Valley company.
But I will tell you, one of the things we'll be able to do is we'll be to outsource functions of our brain. So we'll be able to outsource, we'll be able to upload our memories to the cloud. What they're doing is looking at the pattern in the brain, and then they're matching that pattern, they're putting that into a database. So if you can match the patterns in somebody's brain to the patterns in the database, you can literally start to read their mind. Every time a word comes up, you know it. Oh, that word came up for that individual. Now, will the patterns be identical in every person? Probably not, though the information will be stored in slightly different places. But it wouldn't take long for you to train a machine to read your mind. Now, that's just the beginning. They may be able to have algorithms sophisticated enough, and they get enough samples, enough data, that the AI could actually learn over time what the general rules are for different words, and then you could apply it to anybody. We have algorithms that stimulate the right things and give it the right data. They could reprogram you in a way without you even knowing it. We call it hallucinating, right? But these would be controlled hallucinations run by algorithms. So you think you're in control of your own will, but it's actually some evil AI or evil people controlling everything we do, and we're more like zombies, you know? Like we think we're free and we're not actually free. But if they're connected, if your brain is connected directly to the internet, then it will be real identity theft. They could take you. They could literally erase you. They could reprogram you in a way without you even knowing it. So you think you're in control of your own will, but it's actually somebody else.
This picture shows how human beings are being tortured with these weapons. Basically, they can read and broadcast thoughts. They can project or beam dreams into our REM sleep in the early hours, early morning. When we are in REM sleep, they can project dreams. During the daytime, when we are awake, they can project thoughts. They can influence our thoughts and behavior. They can make us fight, argue with other human beings. So they can literally operate us at animal level, like animals. These are called psychoelectronic weapons. So these psychopaths sometimes communicate with me by projecting dreams into my brain in REM sleep, which appear like dreams for us. For example, a few years ago, they projected a dream into my brain. My head is being used as a football by two teams. One team was wearing blue dress, the other team was wearing red dress. And they were using my head and they were playing football. They projected this dream into my head, my brain. And they informed me that's what they did by posting this secret message the next morning. Which skulls can be used for playing football? So they stalk me on these internet forums, and then they post these messages, secret coded messages. They use my skull or my head as a football, kicking me around on a football field. Likewise, they project dreams into my brain literally every few days, once every few days. And they also use those messages, dreams, as secret coded messages. They projected another dream into my brain when I told them if they don't stop torturing me, I told them I will approach Russian embassy or Chinese embassy or other American enemies and inform them about all these technologies that the US government has, share my knowledge about all these weapons, and seek political asylum in return. So the psychopaths projected a dream into my brain. And in the dream, I call Russian embassy, and then my brain gets stuck. I couldn't speak. Basically, I forget who I am. Same thing with my mother. I call my mother says, hello, hello. And then I forget my own name. My brain gets stuck. I forget my own name. I forget who I am, just like Jason Bourne character. So they basically inform me through the dream that they will destroy my brain, spread virus and destroy my brain if I expose them to the rest of the world.
This technology can be used to beam images and even motion pictures into one's brain. Images and motion pictures that are so realistic that you think you're actually watching a movie or seeing something in reality. It's like a virtual reality 3D rendering that takes place within the target's mind. This technology can also be used to manipulate the emotions of the target. It can induce fear, love, hate. It can cause you to be nervous. It can cause you to be confident. It can cause you to be depressed. It can cause you to be happy. It can cause you to feel any fucking emotion at any time by artificially inducing them. So that when that person goes to speak out about it, when they go to seek help from their fellow human beings, they will conclude that this person must be crazy. And as a result, they will recommend psychological evaluation for that person. You can see the way this is going to go and the way it is going right now. As good people, helpless people that are being abused and tortured and enslaved and experimented upon in America today, American citizens cry out for help from their fellow Americans, and their fellow Americans say, why don't you take some Prozac because we think you're schizophrenic? When this is a highly technical program, all of the symptoms are induced by a technology that is so fucking sophisticated, it is horrifying beyond description.
The ultimate aim would be to archive enough data on each individual to be able to make a computer model of everyone on the planet. One that could be used to predict the behaviors and reactions of every single person in the event of various scenarios.
I want to make this very clear. This is not a conspiracy theory. Your data is being collected. What data, you say?
Your every activity, transaction, physical or virtual, communication, and yes, even your innermost personal thoughts will be cataloged and uploaded to a Hive-based AI system on the global information grid.
Yes, we can absolutely yoke brains to machines to create these interfaces. There's a brand new DARPA project that starts this month called NESD, Neural Engineering Systems Designs. The colloquial name for that is the cortical modem. Implants in the brain that allow real-time input and output from the brain remotely.
This technology could tap into the optical nerve of the target and the auditory system of the target, so that those monitoring the target can see what the target is seeing and hear what the target is hearing.
I could literally go into your head and see through your eyes, and literally live through what he sees.
Basically, they turn the brain of the victim into their very own visual, verbal, and auditive communication system.
The psychopaths are committing every conceivable crime you can imagine. These dystopian, tyrannical, frightening technologies turn them extremely sadistic, perverted, bloodthirsty psychopaths, criminals and sociopaths, and terrorists. They became complete degenerates, and they've been programming people to press accelerator instead of brakes on busy roads and getting them into accidents, and vice versa, programming people on subway platforms to jump in front of trains and committing suicides. They've been programming bus drivers to get into accidents, programming people to commit murders and other crimes and mass shootings. This shadow government or deep state is 100% real. It's not a conspiracy theory.
And we'll see a short video describing this before we go to the next session. Please.
Hello, citizen of the world. We are the Illuminati. Today a new dawn is starting. We are going to take over this planet for the best of all mankind. You have two choices: join us, or you will be specks of dust of human history. We are the shadows that follow you and grow amongst you. For years and years we planned and got ready for this day. We already taken control of the UN, governments, and all the entertainment industry. You can't defeat us, so don't even try. Any action against us will be treated swift and with no mercy. We are the illuminated, one world, one government, new order.
This Illuminati is real. WEF, the World Economic Forum, was started by CIA, and it is run by Klaus Schwab, who is the henchman of CIA. I told these evil psychopaths years ago that I will never behave like a slave, like the rest of the Americans, regardless of how much they torture me. And I never did. I also told them that I will never beg for mercy, regardless of how much they torture me, even if they put a gun to my head. In fact, I actually ferociously fought these psychopaths for the last 16 years, all by myself. But I can only do so much without media's help or power.
And although it may not be that the sky is falling yet, folks, it looks like rain. Bring an umbrella. That said, what's going to rain down?
Well,
there is a very real risk that you are going to become a full-blown 24/7 targeted individual.
So what happens is you get these nanoparticles that attach to our DNA, and when they do, they act as receivers.
And this is going to be hooked up to the 3-strand DNA computers they are building. And these are quantum computers and supercomputers such as the D-Wave system.
And so once you have connected the targeted individual with the frequency, and they resonate together, then you have a perfect avenue upon which to send and receive information back and forth. And that's exactly how they manipulate someone's thoughts. They send voices into someone's head. They manipulate their emotions. They manipulate their behavior. And then that's also how they receive back from the individual in real time the vital signs, the emotions, the thoughts, what the person's seeing, what the person's hearing. And then all that information, of course, is rendered on a computer elsewhere via software, and it can be monitored and tracked in real time.
Artificial intelligence.
Millions of Americans' will, intellect, and emotions have already been digitized, destroyed, and downloaded into these supercomputers. Now, this is really scary stuff. The supercomputers are in the process of building copycat, parallel, twin personalities of the souls of the TIs/mind control victims by reverse engineering the will, intellect, and emotions of the TIs in order to achieve direct behavioral control.
So why would the shadow government need to collect and store so much data? The reason is because they have built a computer-generated real-time mirror model of the world that includes a digital twin copy of every single person on the planet. The more data they can collect from the real world and from each individual, the more accurate the world model becomes. To achieve optimal results, they have used DNA nanobots to link the signals coming from your biological neurons to your very own digital twin in the computer-generated mirror world, so that everything that occurs in the simulation also occurs in the real world and vice versa. As more data is collected, the simulation becomes a more accurate model of the world. Each person's digital twin is readable and writable and subject to the powers of algorithms. And because you are tethered to your digital twin, you too become programmable.
Mouse.
The Human Brain Project achieved its goal of creating a digital model of a human brain. This digital model is used as a template to upload your consciousness to the computer-generated mirror world. A nanobot brain-to-cloud interface links you to this template so that all of your experiences, memories, personality, etc. are transferred to your digital twin. Over time, as more knowledge and data are uploaded to your digital twin, the twin becomes a more accurate representation and will eventually behave and act just as you would given the same set of circumstances.
So my brain is connected to my digital avatar in NSA and CIA computers. So I'm virtually connected via satellites and cell towers with my DNA resonant frequency. So if they create pain to my digital avatar in their computers, I will feel the pain here, and vice versa. So my digital avatar behaves and thinks exactly like I do. And this is real for the entire 8 billion humans. They created this sentient world simulation. For each human being, they have their own digital avatar in the computers, in NSA and CIA supercomputers and quantum computers.
Deep State has merged the quantum computer with the sentient world simulation. And the true reason for all this data collection is to feed it into this AI machine to predict and manipulate the course of humanity.
Their ability to look at data in a quantum artificial intelligence manner, it's just going to be an unstoppable monster.
Even now, the sentient world simulation is watching you learn about it, and inside its intelligent mind is creating a second you, running different scenarios against you to see how you react. This is an article from 10 years ago. The DoD is developing a parallel to planet Earth with billions of individual nodes to reflect every man, woman and child this side of the dividing line between reality and AR.
Your brain reality is your reality. And if in fact I can import information into that brain and take outputs from that brain and link that to an avatar so that brain thinks that it's embodied and moving in the world and experiencing the world, can we do this? Yeah, we can do these kind of things.
At the time of initial reports on the program, there were only 62 country-level simulations being run by the US Department of Defense.
And what people have to realize is that these targeted individuals are basically the test stage for rolling all of this madness out to all 7 billion of us on this planet.
And this is going to be done without our knowledge, and that it's going to be through biological modifications that are being made to the human race. And that may sound pretty out of this world, folks, but it seems to be happening in the world right now, unbeknownst to the people. Everybody is being genetically altered. And with the advent of things such as the D-Wave computer system and the new quantum computers that they're building and the 5G grid, it's about to be taken to the next level. And what we are heading for is a surveillance system and a lockdown of unprecedented proportions.
So that's exactly what I said. Just like Dr. James Giordano, who said that human beings are being linked to their respective digital avatars in the supercomputers and quantum computers of CIA and NSA. So this is Matrix movie is real. Transhumanism, neuroslavery, total biometric surveillance, total control, total population control is in the near future. Once they link majority of the human population to this HIVE AI, they will reveal it to the public that they are all part of this brain net, also known as human quantum computer. Dr. Michael Persinger, Dr. Igor Smirnov, and Dr. John Norsey said these things about neuroweapons reading human brains remotely. Specifically, Dr. Michael Persinger said 6 billion people on this planet, their brains can be influenced by generating electromagnetic induction of fundamental algorithms in the atmosphere. He said this 20 years ago when the Earth's population was still 6 billion. He said it in the 1990s. So please read these paragraphs. I took an auto in Hyderabad, for example, and as soon as I got into the auto, a minute later, I thought in my mind that I only had 500 rupees notes. And I didn't have change to give it to him, 50 or 60 rupees. So a minute later, these evil psychopaths programmed the auto driver to ask me if I have change. Just 1 minute after I thought, the private thought occurred in my mind. There is no reason for him to ask me about if I have changed until we reach the destination. But he asked me because the perpetrators remotely programmed his brain to ask me after reading my private thoughts. So just imagine, auto driver who never visited USA, his brain was remotely programmed. I know all of you will think that I'm imagining these things. That's not true. I am the only human on the planet, because of my third eye, who can perceive these things almost instantly and process if it is a coincidence or if it is programmed by the psychopaths sitting in America. One day, I thought in my mind that these bastards probably didn't figure it out, why I have these extraordinary perception abilities. And the perpetrators, they read my private thoughts again from my mind remotely and responded by posting this message. This is now becoming a big black hole for us, to inform me that they still didn't know why my perception abilities are so superior to the rest of the human species.
You are connected as an organic computer. I mean, this is one of the most quote-unquote conspiratory theories that's been around for many years, decades. But the reality is we're now facing the reality of that. It is no longer a conspiracy, and quite frankly, it terrifies me.
Imagine what would happen if we had to link thousands of brains together. Just like nature creates a superior intelligence by forming flocks, schools, shoals, and swarms, we could create the brain of brains, the world's first ever human quantum computer. Well, what if we told you we already have?
They are already telling us that they have already built this human quantum computer. The mainstream media of CNN, BBC, Fox, ABC, they won't tell you all these things because the entire media, Western media, is covertly controlled by the intelligence agencies and the ruling oligarchs, the ruling class elites. They only show you what they want you to see, which is why you never learn these things on the mainstream media. So if these evil psychopaths are not stopped now, it will be too late for human species to protect themselves from being brutally and horrifically oppressed and enslaved by the evil US government psychopaths in the very near future. We have at best 10 to 15 years time frame to stop this insanity. Human existence will have absolutely no meaning. No human being will have any privacy left. Every thought, emotion, and memory from every human brain will be instantly read and programmed by networked supercomputers AI in the very near future. So here is an example of my extraordinary perception ability. For example, I was playing poker in Los Angeles in a bike casino. At that time, it was a WPT poker tournament. I saw a couple of ladies. They worked as models for WPT, Royal Flush Girls. One lady her name is Danielle, and the second lady is Angelique. So I basically saw them and I thought they were attractive. So I compared those two women, their personalities and character traits after a few days in my mind. So these bastards, these psychopaths, read my private thoughts that I was comparing Danielle and Angelique. And they posted this on the cricket news crew as a secret coded message to me that they knew that I was comparing Danielle versus Angelique. So they framed that in the form of Dunedin versus Adelaide. I thought in my mind that I took 2 seconds to decode this entire mystery. The perpetrators again read my private thoughts and programmed Sonam Mahajan. She lives in India. At that time, I was reading her tweets. So in like 3 seconds, I highlighted that part. The psychopaths informed me that my brain took 3 seconds to process the entire mystery of that Dunedin versus Adelaide secret coded message. And they programmed Sonam Mahajan. what I just said, what I just told you, will make you think that I am the most delusional human being on the planet, the most lunatic person on the planet. But consider this for a moment. What if I said is 100% factual? Likewise, I will give you another example of my third eye abilities. I received this phone call on my cell phone number. And the reason, the mystery behind this story is, I was playing poker online in Los Angeles. And usually when I play poker, I usually make mental note of how many coin flips or races. Coin flips or races in poker, it's basically king queen versus a pocket pair, like pocket sevens, pocket eights, like ace queen versus pocket sevens, pocket eights. The odds of winning are 50-50 for each hand, approximately. So I usually make a mental note of how many coin flips I win. So one particular day, I forgot. I didn't make a mental note, or I forgot. So the evil perpetrators, they read my private thought process, the entire thought process, and made this phone call to me with this number, 747-222-2148. The coded message to me is the last 4 digits, 2148. They were telling me that I won 2 out of 8 coin flips. 2, 1 is 1, W-O-N, 1. 4 is for, F-O-R, 8. 2 for 8. 2, 1 for 8 coin flips that particular day. So when I was a teenager, my mother used to say in my native language, Telugu, about me, Aviliste Pegulu Lekkapadatadu Ma Abbai, which literally translates to, if you yawn, my son will count your guts, and figuratively translates to, my son can see things not visible to the naked eye. So I had this ability since my teenage years. And if you ask the US government deep state psychopaths, they will tell you in private that I'm a million times better than what my mother said about me. Because my mother didn't have all these neuroweapons, artificial intelligence, supercomputer AI to test my skills. And they've been pulling the hair out of their heads for the last 20 years. Why my perception abilities are different from the rest of the human species. I created so many records in the evil US government history. They will never ever be broken by any human being. Physicists and astrophysicists understand the theoretical concepts of time and space better than me. But no human on the planet can use time and space factors for perception purposes better than me because of my third eye. It appears as if my entire knowledge is amalgamated with time and space in my brain. And it feels as if I have infinite space in my brain because of the third. And as of today, I remain a mystery for the evil US government. What the whistleblower Brian Coffran revealed to the public in 2017, I knew all those things, that the evil US government is remotely programming millions and millions of people, breaking up their relationships, creating artificial relationships between people, making them feel attracted to each other, destroying their careers, sabotaging their careers. I knew all those things. 10 years before, Brian Coffran revealed these things to the public. This is why the 8 billion humans should take everything I say as scripture. I wouldn't have known the extent of my own gift of third eye if these bastards, this evil US government psychopaths, didn't come into my life uninvited. Eventually, I chanced upon watching a couple of third eye videos, and I had no choice but to conclude that I really have a third eye. The perpetrators the evil psychopaths are using this torture software interface to torture people. They can literally harm people, civilians, remotely, and create any of these problems remotely without the knowledge and consent of the torture victims.